Tucker Carlson last night said, and I quote, "We have the latest census number, and we can promise you with dead certainty that Joe Biden's nominees look nothing like America, not even close." Really? One black woman out of 9 on the U.S. Supreme Court will cause the court to look nothing like it. Well, you'll have 2 black people on the court. I think that's about the proportion, isn't it? 17% or 18% of America, African American? But, you know, it's just, they're just doubling down on the racism. And they use it to basically say, how dare you consider race for things like affirmative action or hiring or gender for that matter. It's like turning it on its head. And, well, of course, something, you know, Republicans are very, very good at doing. This goes back to their embrace of racism as a political strategy with Nixon's Southern strategy. This was not the GOP, by and large, of Dwight Eisenhower, the president, the first Republican president of my lifetime. This is very much the GOP, or at least it was the fringes of the GOP, of Barry Goldwater and Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan and George Herbert Walker Bush, although George Herbert Walker Bush shouted out to them with his Willie Horton ads. George W. Bush, not so much, other than Muslim bashing, a surprise. But with Donald Trump, it just became front and center. And this is when this faction seized complete control, or near complete control, of the Republican Party. And, you know, and it's not like they're not building on something. I mean, you had John Roberts, the former lawyer for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, now as Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court in Shelby County v. Holder, and back in 2013, writing that basically, hey, there's no more racism in America. We have a black president. We can do away with these laws. And boom, you know, immediately, a whole bunch of states just started purging black people from their voting rolls like there was no tomorrow. And it's not like Republicans, as they're yelling about affirmative action, it's not like they're actually opposed to affirmative action. I mean, Ronald Reagan promised to put a white woman, on the Supreme Court, and he did with Sandra Day O'Connor. Donald Trump said the same thing. He said, you know, it'll be a woman, a very talented, very brilliant woman. Told that to a rally in North Carolina after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. But like I said, those were white women. And while misogyny is pretty high up there in the value hierarchy in the Republican Party, race is at the top. I mean, just look at who they recruit. Of the 56 black members of the House of Representatives right now, 2 are Republicans. The only black Republican senator is Tim Scott, and he was appointed by another GOP outlier, an Indian-American Republican governor, Nikki Haley. So now we've got Tucker Carlson going off on this. The multimillionaire Swanson Frozen Foods fortune heir says, hey, as long as we're carving up the spoils like carrot cake, where's my slice? Right. Or in another moment, he said, it seems normal now to reduce human beings to their race, but imagine if this was happening to you. How would you feel? Right. Tomi Lahren on Fox News whines, we know what Joe Biden does best is placate to the radical element and the radical progressive base of his party that he believes is the majority. Right, nominating a black woman. That's the radical base of the party. All black women are radical progressives. Didn't you know that? Because of the color of their skin. Got it, Tucker. Or Tommy in this case. And then Nikki Haley saying, you know, Biden should choose a Supreme Court nominee without a race or gender litmus test. And then she goes on to say that she used a race litmus test. Rather paternalistically, she said that, you know, she did that when she picked Tim Scott as Senator of South Carolina. That would be the Tim Scott who couldn't even muster a vote for rebuilding America or voting rights. You know, here's a simple reality. All 5 of the black women whose names are in the press right now, presumably as a result of leaks out of the administration, as front runners to replace Justice Breyer, all 5 of them are more qualified academically and are more qualified experientially than any of the 3 nominees that Donald Trump put on the 3 justices that Donald Trump put on the court. Now, that shouldn't be surprising black people, particularly black women, are always held by white society in particular, but society in general, to higher standards than our white women. And white women are held to higher standards than white men. I mean, it's just, this is the result, the legacy of racism and sexism. So I remind you about faction. Dan Sisson and I wrote a book about this called The American Revolution of 1800. Dan Sisson wrote the book. I helped edit it and wrote a foreword to it. And in it, you know, we quote extensively from James Madison about this. He wrote, now this is in Federalist number 10, he wrote, by a faction, I understand a number of citizens, whether amounting to a majority or minority of the whole, who are united and actuated by some common impulse of passion or of interest, adverse, that's harmful, to the rights of other citizens or to the permanent and aggregate interests of the community. He goes on to say, men of factious tempers, in other words, people who are creating factions, of local prejudices or of sinister designs, may by intrigue, by corruption, or by other means first attain the suffrages, in other words, first get power, and then betray the interests of the people. So what I'm saying here is that the Republican Party has, you know, there was this racist, misogynist, white supremacist faction within the Republican Party. It was used, that faction was, used to get a few extra votes by Nixon and by basically every Republican since then. But with Trump, he said, hey, that faction, those marginalized people, the people, you know, the Klan, we're going to bring them fully, and the Nazis, we're going to bring them fully into the party. And they now constitute the base of the Republican Party, and they now drive the Republican Party, which raises a really interesting question. Now that a faction has taken over a political party, the last time we saw this happen, you know, it was the Democratic Party, it was the 1850s, and, you know, the Democratic Party in the South. So this is the second time this has happened in American history. Now that a faction has taken over the Republican Party, can they continue to hold power? There are Republicans who are pushing back, you know, the Cheneys and Kinzingers of the world, who are saying, hey, wait a minute, no, our party should not be about racism, it should not be about misogyny, and it should be embracing democracy. But the rest of the elected Republicans, you got Josh Hawley now piling on, you know, with criticism of Joe Biden wanting to pick a black woman for the Supreme Court. How dare he? It's insane. But what do you think? Can they hold on to the power in hold on to power in the party in 2022? And if so, what happens to the old Republican Party? Because the Democratic Party is becoming pretty damn progressive.